Young Thug isn't the type to hold back his thoughts, and that's exactly what makes this leaked phone call so explosive. In the clip, Thug openly vents his frustrations about Kendrick Lamar, saying he felt disappointed after Kendrick declined a collaboration. But this wasn't just about a missed verse. Thug used that moment to raise a much bigger question. What exactly has Kendrick done for the rap game beyond his own career? He specifically pointed to how Kendrick doesn't collaborate with as many rising artists and doesn't use his platform to pull others up the way someone like Drake does. In Thug's eyes, Kendrick might be an elite lyricist, but he's not a bridge builder in the culture. And that's where the comparison with Drake comes in. Not just as another rapper, but as a totally different kind of leader in hip-hop. Drake's reputation for lifting up emerging artists is practically a blueprint. You've seen it. A Drake feature can turn an underground artist into a chart-topping star, almost overnight. Think about Blockboy JB. The second Look Alive dropped with Drake on it, Blockboy went from Memphis buzz to global recognition. Or Lil Baby, who said in multiple interviews that his whole career changed after Drake jumped on Yes Indeed. And this isn't just a couple examples. Drake's entire catalog is packed with moments where he hopped on a track, elevated the other artist, and walked away without stealing the spotlight. It's a formula. It's generous, and more importantly, it creates movement in the culture. It gives new energy to the scene. From Migos' Versace to Smiley's Over the Top, Drake's involvement can turn a local sound into a global phenomenon. It's clear, Drake believes in sharing the stage, even if it means occasionally being outshined. Kendrick Lamar doesn't need to flood playlists or jump on trendy remixes to make waves. He plays the long game, quietly, deliberately. His power lies not in how often he shows up, but in where he chooses to show up, and why. Take his early role in shaping Top Dog Entertainment. While TDE was already a functioning label, it was Kendrick's rise, beginning with Section 80 and exploding with Good Kid, Mad City. That transformed the crew into a cultural movement. But even as his star rose, Kendrick never separated himself from the rest. He didn't just bring his team along, he made sure their voices were part of the story. You can hear it in the sonic cohesion of TDE projects. You can feel it in the way each artist carved their own identity while still orbiting around a central creative vision. Unlike artists who throw cosigns out to expand their brand, Kendrick's support is quiet and internal. It's developmental. It's the kind of leadership that doesn't always show up in a Spotify credit or a viral tweet. He's mentoring in the shadows, shaping sounds in studios, giving space for growth instead of spotlight. Look at CA. Before Control took over the world, she was a raw, genre-defying talent. Kendrick didn't just feature on her songs, he helped build the framework around her artistry. The result? A fully realized creative voice that doesn't sound like Kendrick at all, yet carries the same depth, vulnerability, and control that defines his own work. That's not mimicry. That's influence, applied with surgical precision. Even with Baby Team, Kendrick didn't just drop in as a relative lending a hand, he helped orchestrate a vision. Their collaboration on Family Ties wasn't just a record, it was a generational handoff wrapped in chaotic brilliance. It signaled not only Kendrick's return, but also Team's arrival, on Kendrick's terms, not the industry's. This isn't the kind of mentorship that boosts streaming numbers overnight. It's the kind that builds careers that last. Kendrick doesn't move for visibility. He moves to create structure, blueprints. And when he disappears again, it's usually because he's constructing something even bigger, somewhere off-grid. There's something undeniably powerful about that restraint, the refusal to be everywhere at once. Because when Kendrick does re-enter the conversation, everything stops. Every verse, every visual, every narrative drop feels like a headline carved into concrete. And that's not just a result of talent. That's long-term architecture. And like any great architect, he doesn't build for applause, he builds for permanence. Young Thug's frustration doesn't come from a place of disrespect, it comes from a place of disappointment. And that's exactly why his critique stings. In the leaked call, he doesn't outright say Kendrick isn't talented. He doesn't say Kendrick doesn't matter. What he says, in essence, is that Kendrick had a chance to show love and chose not to. That hits harder than a diss track. Because what Thug is really pointing out isn't about a single missed collaboration, it's about a pattern. He sees Kendrick's refusal not just as a personal rejection, but as symbolic of a broader detachment. A refusal to engage, to collaborate, to participate in the ecosystem that's constantly evolving, constantly reaching out. For someone like Thug, who built his legacy with and through others, that kind of distance can come off as almost elitist. He's from a scene where sharing is survival, where features aren't just artistic choices, they're lifelines, a way to feed your team, put your city on, keep the energy circulating. So when someone like Kendrick, who's already sitting at the top of the mountain, doesn't reach back down, it feels cold. And this isn't about clout chasing. Thug doesn't need Kendrick to validate him, but culturally, spiritually, there's an expectation in hip-hop, especially among Black artists, that once you get on, you help someone else get on too. The feeling is, if you have that power, why not use it to make someone else's life easier? Why not pass the torch while you're still holding it? Thug isn't just speaking for himself. Whether he meant to or not, he's voicing the frustrations of a whole tier of artists who feel like they've been locked out of Kendrick's universe. And when you're in an industry that thrives on collaboration, on synergy, on the next unexpected link-up, that silence from someone as gifted as Kendrick can feel like a lost opportunity. Not just musically, but culturally. But here's the twist. While Thug sees a wall, Kendrick might believe he's building a foundation. And that is where the clash of ideologies begins. A deep divide between visibility and impact, accessibility and curation. At the heart of this whole debate is a question that doesn't just apply to Kendrick or Thug, it applies to every artist who's ever had to choose between making noise or making change. What matters more, being seen or being felt? Drake's form of influence is visible. It's instant. It shows up in charts, in headlines, in viral clips of club performances. His impact is measured in who's on his remix, who got a verse, who blew up after sharing a track with him. It's loud, it's measurable, and it gives fans and critics something tangible to point to. But Kendrick's version of influence? It operates in the shadows. He doesn't amplify others by proximity, he inspires them by philosophy. He might not show up on your track, but you'll find echoes of his voice in your bars. You'll hear his storytelling cadence in the flows of rappers who've studied his albums like literature. For some artists, Kendrick is the North Star, not the co-pilot. And this difference between influence and visibility becomes even more important when you zoom out. Because in today's social media-driven music scene, visibility is often mistaken for value. If you're not seen collaborating, posting, or co-signing, it's easy for the culture to assume you're disconnected, or worse, selfish. But that mindset misses the nuance. It ignores the fact that some artists are cultivating depth, not just reach. There's also the question of longevity. Visibility burns bright, but often fades fast. Influence, on the other hand, is slower, but it lingers. Kendrick's style of impact may not spike metrics overnight, but it's the kind that shows up years later. In new artists' sounds, in shifting lyrical trends, and in the cultural weight of albums like To Pimp a Butterfly or Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers being dissected like college curriculum. So when Thug asks what Kendrick has done for the game, maybe the real answer is, it depends on what kind of impact you're looking for. Are you watching the surface or paying attention to the undercurrent? But here's where the conversation really opens up. This isn't about who's right or who's wrong. It's about style. The personal creative philosophies that shape how each artist moves through the industry. Young Thug is chaos and color. His style is rooted in spontaneity, in disruption, in presence. He doesn't just drop music. He creates waves in the culture with every project, every feature, every social post. Thug's approach to the game is like jazz, fluid, improvisational, collaborative. To him, sharing space is part of the art itself. The studio is a revolving door, and the more voices on a track, the more vibrant the sound. Kendrick, by contrast, is a curator. He operates like a filmmaker more than a rapper. Every verse, every feature, every public appearance is a choice. Deliberate, infrequent, and deeply layered. He's not absent because he's aloof. He's absent because silence is part of his rhythm. Kendrick's power doesn't come from how often he speaks, but from how much his words matter when he does. And that's where style becomes substance. Thug believes in being among the people. Kendrick believes in being above the noise. One sees collaboration as an engine. The other sees solitude as a canvas. Neither approach is superior. They just serve different artistic identities. So when Thug voices frustration, it's not necessarily jealousy or bitterness. It's two artists looking at the same landscape and drawing completely different maps. It's style clashing with style, vision meeting vision, in a space that rarely makes room for nuance. And if you're only judging these artists by traditional metrics, chart positions, features, cosigns, you'll miss what makes their styles powerful. You'll miss the why behind their moves. More than a debate about ego, this moment between Thug and Kendrick reveals something deeper. The rap game is no longer a one-size-fits-all system, and the artists who thrive are the ones who know exactly who they are and never waver from that blueprint. In the end, maybe the question isn't whether Kendrick should collaborate more. Maybe the better question is, can we accept that not all influence has to look the same? Kendrick might never be the type to hand out features like business cards, but he's still raised a generation of rappers. He's still inspired artists to go deeper, think bigger, and write with more intention. And Thug? He's building his own kingdom. One feature, one connection, one studio session at a time. So instead of tearing one down to lift the other up, maybe it's time we appreciate that both can coexist. That there's room in the culture for both architects and bridge builders. Because at the end of the day, rap isn't one road. It's a map, and every artist chooses their own path. If this breakdown gave you a new way of looking at the culture, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives like this. We've got more videos coming that'll change how you see music, fame, and power. And hey, if you're into the behind-the-scenes dynamics of the music industry, stick around. It only gets deeper from here.